So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Q webinar. Today we'll be talking about discussions testers should no longer be having. This webinar is organized by Q Community. Q Community aims to build and serve a community of test automation enthusiasts with a prime objective to find, nurture ways to transform test automation to be simpler, more reliable, and sustainable for the real world. So some ground rules for this webinar. We'll have this webinar for 45 minutes, and then we will kick off Q&A sessions for the next 15 minutes where Mike will answer any questions that you may have. So you can put your questions in the Q&A tab while this webinar is going along, and we would be definitely happy to answer all your questions. So I'm your host, Jocelyn Radis, product evangelist at XLQ. And with me, we have a guest, Mike Lyles, director of QA and project management at Bridgety. Welcome, Mike. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
So quick things about Mike Lyles, very popular in the testing community. Mike needs no introduction, but here are a few snippets. Mike has over 25 years of IT experience in multiple organizations, including Fortune 50 companies. Mike is an international keynote speaker. He has given testing talks at various events we have known, and is a John Maxwell team coach, speaker, and trainer. Mike is also the author of the book, The Drive-Thru is Not Always Faster, an exceptional book. I request all of you to have a hand and read this out. So, Mike, the stage is yours, and go ahead. Waiting for
All
this.
right. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun. I'm excited for the people that are here. And if you're catching this later, excited that you actually watched it after the fact as well, because I think we got a lot of material that we're going to share with everyone today. I wish I could see your faces. I've been to one event in the last 2 years in person, and that is tough because I really like to see people and interact with people, and it's going to get back to normal, I'm sure. But in the meantime, we're here, and I want you to have fun here. I want to get your questions. I want to hear from you. As Josley mentioned, I've been in IT for 28 years now, and I've been doing this for a long time. Started out as a developer, went through QA, got into testing and test management, and a lot of different roles. And my passion really is to help people, to coach people, to mentor people in both their testing careers or their career or their lives in general. And it's something that I've really had a passion to do, is help people figure out how to get from point A to point B. So if you're looking for somebody that can help you and coach you, I'm your guy. I'm doing a lot of that now, especially with the virtual, everybody being at home. As I mentioned, I got a book. Would really love for you to read it. It's not a testing book, but I promise you, you will enjoy it if you read it. It's 30 chapters. It's easy to read, and it teaches you a lot of things about just experiences that I've had, and I think you'll get a lot from it. So let's get started. I think these two have helped us understand that people don't always agree. People don't agree on everything, and these two weren't on the same team, but they do represent the same country, and we know that, right? And we know that where we work and the teams we work with, no matter where you go and what you do, you're going to come across teams and people that are going to be, you're going to have difficult conversations. And we're going to talk about that later on, about crucial conversations. But I want to share with you some things that I pulled together as I got this idea. I've worked in a lot of companies where the question comes, how did we miss this in testing? And you start hearing some of these questions that you hear everywhere you go, and then you start seeing a trend, and you say to yourself, I wish I wouldn't have this conversation. And the bigger question is, it's not about not having that conversation. It's about, how do we change the conversation? How do we change it to something else and a different type of discussion, instead of the one that we usually end up, spiraling into? And so I asked folks, and definitely, I know this is an eye chart and it's not meant for you to read all of this. I just want you to see the content, because when I reached out to people and I talked to folks on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other places, these are the things I got back. When I said, what are some discussions that you wish you were not having? This is just the start of what I got. And in just a very short period of time, these are the things that I got from people. And I want to touch on some of those through today. I just want you to see the volume of things that I got. We're going to hit a lot of these before we're done. And we're also at the end, we're going to talk about what does quality mean to you, because I think it's very important for us to think about that as well. The big thing for you as testers or anybody in the organization is you have a critical voice in the alignment of teams. You're, the back in the old days, and I think of the old days now because I've been doing this a long time, but back in the old days, testing was the box to check before you went to production, and it was the last thing to do. It was red tape. It was, let's get this done, hurry up, test this, let's get it out. That's not the role that you're playing, and it shouldn't be the role that you think you're playing in the organization today. It should be, that you have a very valuable voice in the organization, on the team, and at the table. And you shouldn't just be involved at the very end to say, okay, I'm ready to test it, give me what I need to do, and I'll go validate it and go forward. You really need to be involved in the early stages. Is it testable? Do we have the right design? Does the client really understand, or the stakeholders really understand what they want? And are you helping them to do that? So there's so many things you can do at the table. You have a critical voice, so don't miss out on that opportunity. We must drive alignment. A lot of times I think we feel like it's the Scrum Master's job, or the product owner's job, or the project manager, or the director's job to make sure that everybody's aligned. But you have an important opportunity to be able to change the way your teams work together. And you are empowered. I'm telling you, you're empowered. If your boss is not telling you that, I'm telling you that. You should feel empowered to drive that alignment and the collaboration across the team. And in my team right now, the QA team that works with me, we've got 12 people. And one of the things that we do is there's a lot of respect for that team, and a lot of respect for the people on that team. And I see managers, developers, Scrum Masters go into that team and asking for their opinions, even without them having to step out. But I'm telling the team, continue to interact with the group. Don't see yourself as just one role, and that's test and verify and release. See yourself as someone who's involved throughout the whole project and the whole life cycle. The big thing to remember is this is not personal. Don't let it become a personal thing. We do it too many times. I've done it. I've had to talk to people on my teams who have done it that let it become too personal. And when you step back and you just take a step back and you look at the situation and you say, is this really going to be a problem in a month, a year, 2 years, next week? And the answer is no, too many times. I think you have to say to yourself, I don't need to be taking this personal. This is my job. This is what I do. I come in, I do my job. I work with the team. I collaborate. We work toward one goal and we serve each other. But it's not, it doesn't have to be personal. Don't let it become a personal thing to you. So take a stand. Don't let it be personal. Don't be offensive, but take your stand and then tell what you think about things and listen to other people's opinions. We're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. So we'll jump right to it. The one thing that I'll say is, if you haven't read the book Crucial Conversations, I felt like I missed out on that a long time ago, and I should have read it much earlier, because this book has been out a long time, and they're getting ready to release another version, I think in October of version 3. But version 2 is out right now. It's an excellent book. I read it and I said, where have you been all of my life? Crucial Conversations, because it really will change the way you think about how you have conversations at work, conversations at home, conversations anywhere. It's a very important book, and it talks about 3 things. And it says that every crucial conversation has to have 3 parts. And those 3 parts are opposing opinions, strong emotions, and high stakes. If you don't have those 3, you don't have a crucial conversation. If you've got 2 of those, any 2, you've got a different type of conversation or a different type of situation. But if you got all 3, that's a crucial conversation. And as you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about yourself and your work and some of the things that you've had to do day to day in your job, you're saying, I know you're saying right now, I've had a lot of crucial conversations in my career. I'm having one this week. I had one just a minute ago, right? I know you're thinking that. So when you're having those, we're going to talk for a few minutes about how do you handle that. And then we're going to get to some of those discussions you don't want to have. One of the things that Crucial Conversations had that I really thought was a great quote is the key to real change lies not in implementing a new process, but in getting people to hold one another accountable. Okay, folks, I challenge you. Let's make 2021 the year of accountability. In fact, let's make all the future years the year of accountability, because accountability is so core to the problems we have in teams. I just wrote an article internal in my company and shared it with the organization about how that when you have a house fire, at the end of the fire, you kind of determine the root cause and you figure out the fire started in the kitchen or it started in the laundry room with an iron. The problem is the whole house burns if you start that fire. The whole house burns if the electrical box starts burning and burns the whole house. So everything's affected by that one spark and that one fire. And to me, our organization is getting stronger around accountability. And because if you're saying someone doesn't have the skills, it might not be that they don't have the skills. It could be that they just are not accountable. You're saying this team's not delivering and their estimates are bad. It could be that they're just not coming to the table accountable. If you fix accountability in your organization and your team, you're going to see changes and outcomes that you've never seen before. So be accountable. Start with yourself, and then you'll see changes in others if you're accountable and you come to the table and you do what you say you're going to do every single time. The second and final quote that I pulled from Crucial Conversations is, first step to achieving the results we really want is to fix the problem of believing that others are the source of all that ails us. Okay? I'm going to help you today. Stop being a victim. Stop blaming others for your problems. Focus on you. Fix you, then fix the situation. Because if you stop worrying about what they think about you, stop worrying about what others think about you, that's a chapter in my book. What others think about you is none of your business. Don't let it take you down, and just focus on delivering and being a winner. Now, here's the thing. This model, and you can get it online. You don't even have to get the book to see this. This is available online if you search for Crucial Conversations. The model says here that before you have those crucial conversations, you got to work on you. We just talked about that, right? Getting unstuck, starting with the heart, understanding what you really want to accomplish, and then, like I said, taking a step back and saying, do I really need to make this a passion, be so passionate about this and take it so personal, or can I, just state the facts and stay focused on my story and what I'm going to say? And then here you can see silence and violence. It's a cute little rhyme, but it's something that almost every crucial conversation is going to head to if you're not careful. And that either, you've had the silent treatment. We talk about the silent treatment, and we talk about people who just get very ugly and angry and violent. So they can go either way, but either of those is the ring you want to pass through and get to safety. And when we talk about safety, it's making people feel confident and safe to have a conversation that we know is not going to go off the rails. And once you do that, you state your path, you state your stand on the discussion, but you understand their meaning, and you really take a look at what they want and what they're trying to bring to the table, so that the two of you can have a great agreed upon shared meaning. The pool of shared meaning here is what we talk about. And you're constantly fighting to keep it safe, to keep the discussion safe. And the way you do that is, if you start seeing that you're starting to offend someone, figure out, are you saying the right things, and do you need to change your discussion there? And then once you've kind of talked it out, and the book takes you all over. I'm not here to teach you Crucial Conversations theory, but if you read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll teach you how to get better at having those tough conversations that you may not want to have. And then at the end, move to action is really, it's for any meeting or anything you ever do. You need to have an action at the end to say, here's what I'm going to do to close this out and to complete this discussion that we've had. Now, there's an old saying that when you buy a new car, everywhere you drive, you'll see that car. right? And I used to do it a lot. I used to say, I bought this car because I felt it was like one of a kind. And then I start driving around the neighborhood and I see like 2 and 3 and 4 of them. Um, the reason I'm saying that is this happened to me with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've read the book. I've read it many times, and it came out many years ago. It's, as it says here, over 30 million. I think it's sold over 40 million copies now. If you haven't read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, please get that book and read it. It'll change your life. But the thing I liked about it is the 7 habits are easy to understand. The first 3 are about you, the next 3 are about the group, and the last one is synergize or sharpen the saw. Now, the one that stood out to me, and this is where I'm having that new car moment, is I've always understood the habit 5 is seek first to understand, not to be understood. But I've been hearing that with crucial conversations. I've been hearing it with the Maxwell training that I recently took for coaching and mentoring. And some of the other stuff I've got, I just keep hearing this constant message, seek first to understand, then to be understood. I hear it repeatedly. You should hear it repeatedly, because if you can understand other people first and what they're bringing to the table, instead of just pushing your message and only thinking about you, you're going to see a change in you. That's just one of the 7 habits, but I'm telling you, that is a great chapter in that book. Covey talks about the circle of influence and the circle of concern. So think about it this way, you have a circle of concern. If I asked each of you today, I came to you and I said, tell me, what things are you concerned about? What things do you want to change? And what things are you passionate about, needing to be taken care of or changed or modified or stopped or started? You have a list already in your head. You're thinking about that list. But then there's the circle of influence, which is in the middle of that. And it's smaller because you can't change everything, right? We've been told that all of our lives. You can't change everything. But you will find the better you have these conversations, the better you connect with people, the better you communicate with people and work with people, the better those conversations are going to help you grow that circle of influence. And you're going to find that your circle of concern may change and get a little bit bigger, but your circle of influence can get so big that you're almost able to influence things that are all within your circle of concern. Now, that's just a future plan for you. You got to get started. And how do you do that? So let's talk about communication and how communication works. There are 4 types. There's reading, there's writing, there's speaking, and then there's listening. Now, we've all had classes on the first 3, reading, writing, speaking. We've done that. Some of you haven't possibly done speaking classes, but there are 3, those 3 all have courses and materials, but there's not a whole lot of materials and courses on listening, right? So that's something we need to focus on. And there's 4 levels of listening. Ignoring, pretending, you're acting like you're paying attention, or you're saying, yeah, right, I get it. Selective listening. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then there's attentive listening, where you've got these people that just listen to every single thing you say, and sometimes they tell you where you're wrong or right. But then there's empathetic listening, and that's what we want to talk about real quick here before we start into the discussions people shouldn't be having. And empathetic listening is this: you're listening with an intent to understand. It's very important that we say here that it's just listening with an intent to understand, because you seek first to understand, to really understand what they're saying. You want to get that other person's view and their frame of reference. You want to see the world the way they see the world. And the big important note here is empathy is not to be confused with sympathy, right? Sympathy is a form of agreement and judgment, and you're sympathizing. Empathy is listening, but you may not agree with that person, but you're listening. You're listening to their points. You're really thoroughly, empathetically listening to what they're saying. So you're listening to understand. Now, as testers and people in the testing community, that's a skill you need, right? We ask questions to dig deeper and to understand. Covey, in his 7 Habits, talks about the emotional bank account and how that, if I'm talking to you and I'm showing you respect and I'm working with you, then I'm building an emotional bank account with you because you start to respect me and work with me. And and that can go up and down through the course of me and you working together and talking together. But the biggest thing for us, and we know this from testing, we know this from what we do in testing, is when you listen, you learn. And that's why we have 2 ears and one eye. I mean, and one mouth, not one eye, 2 ears and one mouth. Because you need to listen twice as much as you talk. One eye, great. All right. So let's dig into discussions that you should not be having. This is why you're here. This is why you came. The first one, I have to start with this one because anybody that's here that's never heard this probably hasn't been in testing very long, because this is probably the most popular one. How did we miss this in testing? Right? And you've heard it. You're inclined to be defensive. I'm going to pop these two up for everything that I show. There's a debating response, and then there's a seek to understand and then respond. And we want to practice this as we go along. If we were in a group together right now and we were in person, I would make this very interactive and let you kind of tell me what you would say, and then we would talk about it, because it's a lot of fun to do in person as well. But I'll share with you the ones that I'm getting along the way, what people have told me. So we're still going to have fun virtually. But the debating response here is like, hey, why are you attacking testing? What is going on? Why are we just focusing on testing? Everybody broke this. We didn't break a thing. Testers don't break anything. They find it broken. You can have a negative response, or you can take a positive result out of this, or a positive approach to this. And you can say, you know what? I got this. Let's talk about the root cause. I'm going to lead an effort to look at what did we miss in the requirements and design, development, overall, everything. And you can be the driver for that lessons learned and making sure it doesn't happen again. Instead of being someone who's defensive and saying, hey, why are you always attacking us? We're just the testers. We're not the ones who did this and did that. That's okay. That used to be my initial reaction. But you can be the one to change and to make things better by driving that root cause and trying to say, okay, it happened. We can't change it, but I want to be someone who helps keep it from happening again. So let's talk about roles. And I separate these out into different groups, but we'll start with roles and roles you play in the organization. This one's fun, right? QA is an incorrect title. We do ensure quality. My title is important. Why are you judging me? Those are kind of some of the things you might say if people start defining. I hate the word QA. I hate QA being the title. Why are we calling it QA? Because we're not quality assurance. We are quality assistants. Had someone share that with me a long time ago. That's not my own. But quality assistance is what we should be, not quality assurance. Not ensuring quality, not the owners of quality, not the gatekeepers, but we should be the ones to assist the whole team to make sure that everybody focuses on having a quality product. And that's how you turn that story. Okay, call me QA, call me testers, call me exploratory, call me whatever you want to call me, but understand that I have this job to do, and I am going to work with the team to make sure that we deliver something that's great for the customer and for the client. The next one, are you an automated or a manual tester? We've had those discussions. We see it all the time on social media and other places. We have a lot of discussion around that. And there's so many responses to this, right? We get into the discussion of automation versus manual. We can fight with people over testing versus checking. We hear people talk about, I've been the one making those discussions about, you never hear about a manual developer, things like that. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? We need to understand, why is the person concerned? And let's agree that it takes a human to think, right? If I'm looking at this screen, the feelings that I have by looking at this screen is something that I can't record. Now, you might say AI can do a lot of things now that humans can do, and to to have machine learning and thinking, but I can look at this screen and say, this green makes me feel weird, right? Or this red makes me feel tired. We know that. And it's not necessarily something that a computer or a program is going to do. So remember that automation supports testing, and that's what it does. And it's very important. And I'm going to tell you, it's very important to our teams. It's no longer an option to say should we not have automation? We need it. We need it to support a lot of the things that we do. But I don't need to worry. If you're somebody who does automation, you're a tester to me. If you're somebody that does hands-on thinking, testing, running things manually by hand, you're a tester to me. It's in my mind, in your mind, you're doing the work that I expect you to do as a tester to confirm that this product is ready to go and that the stakeholders are getting what they asked for. That's testing. Next one is around others can help when QAs are the bottleneck, right? You've heard it before. When things get backed up, hey, can we throw more people at this? Can we do it? I think I'm jumping to another one. But, there's a feeling to be defensive in this situation. And the feeling of being unloved by the team, as if they don't trust you to get it done. But the questions you need to think about in that situation is, what is the urgency? Is there a hard date? Is there a payment that's going to be affected because we don't deliver this on time? Show your value as a tester and your expertise, because we all know that not everybody can test. You know that more than I do. It takes a special skill and a special mentality to do it. And you can't just pull people off the street. So not just anybody can do it. And looking at environments, it works in staging, but not in production. That's the old works on my machine. I want that t-shirt. I'm yet to get it, but I do want a t-shirt that says it works on my machine. Your response is maybe you're doing something different. Maybe you've got the wrong version of the code. But honestly, people, why do we care? Why do we care about debating about whether or not they get the right version, the wrong version? Because if it's not working in production, it's not we failed, right? And we have to make sure, we have to understand where's the gap in the system that's allowing this to work on somebody's machine or the test environment or the development environment, that it's not working in test or production. Because if it doesn't, remember that it all fails if it doesn't work in production. Plain and simple. Another one for environments is, it's going to take too long to set up. Let's just move it to production. Now, I've had people that agree that this happens to them a lot. It hasn't happened to me a whole lot, but I have seen people say, let's just push it. We don't have time to get everything right. We don't have time to set it up. We don't have the ability to set it up and test the way it needs to be in production. We don't have the same type of environment. That happens. And, your response, debating response may be, hey, we can never go to production without testing. I demand that we stop this, right? I will escalate if you try to go to production. I am the police. Don't do that. Don't do that. Own your stuff. And remember that testers, you got to prepare for how long you're going to test, for the business risk in the shortest amount of time. Don't demand for 100 times days of testing for confidence, just to demand, or just to say I'm holding my own and standing my ground. Understand the risk and verify it. And, if you do have to go to production and this situation happens to you and you're forced to do that, then just get in there quick and make sure that it's working in production before your stakeholders find it for you. And then automation. Automation, we need to automate 100%. I don't know if that still is going around, but this was a pandemic for years before COVID. Your first response is, are you crazy, right? Do you not trust my work? Are you trying to release the thinking testers, the hands-on testers? Is that what you're trying to do? And you have to ask yourself, you have to understand, when that question's coming up, we need to automate 100%. What's the purpose? Why would we want to? Does this person just not understand why why we would not automate everything? Are they doing it because they do want to release people that are real people and replace it? Because that's a mistake. We know that. You have to have those discussions and explain to them why. But at the end of the day, automation at 100% is not reasonable or needed. And you kind of have to use, I call it the automation spreadsheet. Different people have used that, but it comes down to, is it automatable, right? And you have to say to yourself, if I'm having to change this code constantly and I'm having to change the automation constantly, it's probably not a really good place to automate, because you want to be able to create this and then run it multiple times without a whole lot of maintenance and support. Or if you say, I'm going to automate this, but we don't test this, but maybe once every year or every 2 years, definitely not an automation, a candidate for automation. So understand what is automatable, what should be automatable as you go. We didn't automate. Why didn't the automation magically catch the weird bugs? There's many opportunities to respond to this in a very negative way. But I think you have to help the team understand that automation is development. And as testers, we know that there's a tendency to have bugs, right? We know that there's no silver bullet. And it depends on how they're developed and designed and coded, just like with any code. Automation is the same. Estimation. When we talk about estimation, it's can you explain why your estimates are so long? Anybody have that? Anybody had that happen to you? First response, maybe you may be thinking, hey, should I say, well, I think I'm going to say, can you explain why your development numbers are so long? Can you worry about your own work and not focus on mine? But again, seek to understand why they're concerned. Is there a push from somewhere that's wanting to reduce the work numbers? Is there an opportunity to reduce the overall project with both development and QA, and reduce that way? Either way, be prepared to show your work. If you're not familiar with mind maps, please reach out to me. I want to show you how your life can change with mind maps. I preach it everywhere I go. But mind maps help you model and help you decide what your coverage looks like. And it also helps you explain to people when they start asking, why is your testing so long and why is it taking so long? And the different questions that are asked, that's where mind maps can help you, and modeling and just making sure you understand the product instead of just take a requirement, write a test case. We get around the questions of what is the cost of testing? What is the value of testing? I've been in those. If you haven't been in those, you're a lucky person. And your response here, in your mind, you're like, you got your cape, you're Superman, Superwoman. I'm here to save the world. I'm here to find bugs. We're here to keep everything working. We want high quality. Of course you do, right? But seek to understand, why are they asking this? What is the concern? Is it the testing cost? Or is it the value that they're seeing? Your goal is to show the risk and the cost of not testing, and show the cost of a bug making it to production. I did this once with a company I was working for, and they were questioning those things. And I said, okay, if this bug makes it to production and it causes a customer to be unhappy, and you've got millions of customers, and let's say thousands of those people stop shopping in your stores, what is the cost of that one customer times the thousands and thousands of people that are not going to come back? You're going to lose money, not internally in your development, in your release of the code, but you're going to lose money because those customers aren't going to come. So if we find those defects and we save those from happening in production and causing a bad situation for a consumer, you're going to make things better. The old, do you really need to test that? Let's talk about some planning. Testing, the developer tested it during development, and I'm going to move a little faster here. Your initial response may be, you think you're better than me? You think I don't add value? Let me find a bug and prove you wrong. Don't worry. The person is not doubting your skills. Actually, don't even let it bother you. But do say thanks. I'll take it from here because we're in this together. And if the developer tested it, good. You're on a good track if you got developers testing their code before they hand it to you. But you verify. Test, trust, but verify. The developer was too busy to write unit tests. We get that a lot, right? And then your response may be, why are you giving me this code, which immediately fails when I test it? I'm wasting my time because you never verify anything. Don't worry. I saw a sign in a dentist office one time that said, floss only the teeth that you want to keep. It's a good statement, right? I mean, we all want to keep all of our teeth, obviously. So floss them all. Project members should establish a rule of unit test only the code that you want to ensure is working. It's an easy task. And doing a quick unit test it's going to make sure that you save tons of rework and overwork by the testers. We're in this together. Always remember, we're in this together. Why are you testing that? You get that question, and now they're questioning your ability to do your work. Your ability to be a tester. Who are you to ask me? Do I come and ask you how you do your job, right? But seeking to understand what the stakeholders want. That's your job, right? If the project sponsor is saying this to you, why are you testing that? That's one thing. If the developer is saying it to you, that's another. If the project manager is saying it to you, that's another. There's different reasons that they're asking you, why are you testing that? Show the folks on your teams that are asking that question, the business risk, and that you know how the user is going to use this. And then this is very straightforward. If you've never heard this, man, I don't know how you missed it because I used to hear it all the time. It's a straightforward fix. It's a straightforward change. Don't worry, we don't need to test it. Let's just go on to production. And your response may be, okay, can you go ahead and test it and release it yourself then? I mean, I can just step away. Don't do that. Seek to understand. They're saying this because they want to push it and get it out, right? We get it. That's fine. But tell them, since it's easy, you got this, and you'll verify it, and then we'll go. And then I think the next to last one in planning is test cases versus no test cases. Now, I see that I've only got a few minutes left here to go through some of these. We could talk another 2 or 3 hours on this one, I think, for those of you that are here. Your response could be, my school of testing is better than your school of testing. You're wrong if you don't believe me. I don't like you if you don't think the same as me. That's where we're going with this world anyway. Let's don't do that, right? I've had so many discussions on this, and I've been on both sides of this through decades of working in testing and development. My feeling today is this, and you may disagree. And I had somebody walk out of a presentation on me when I said this a couple of months ago, but I'm standing by it now. No other team in your organization is writing steps for what they do. Your developers aren't doing it. Your managers aren't doing it. Your directors, VPs. I don't write steps for what I do every day. Why do testers have to do it if they're the only ones that do? Maintaining the steps and keeping those updated takes testers away from testing. But it isn't just a matter of I don't need to test. I mean, I don't need to write test steps, so it makes my life easier. It doesn't make it easier. It makes it more difficult sometimes because you have to learn and be intimate with the product and understand how that product works. I use an example of a remote control. If I hand you a remote control and I say test it, you don't need steps. You don't need a requirements document. You'll just test it because you understand what a remote control does for a TV. If you learn a product at that level and you learn how to think at that level about everything about how that product works and you understand how that product should work, you're able to test it and you're able to model and plan. Test scenarios, you need those. I'm not saying you don't have anything. Logging what you're doing and how you're doing it, that's another thing. So, but we can talk about that deeper, maybe some of the questions here, but it's my new, I've evolved to this through my years, and I really like where that's taken me. Usability bug is not a bug. Some of you had that situation. Your response may be, who are you to tell me this is not a bug? But you have to understand, in the 90s, we had sales-led growth in companies. 2000s, we had marketing-led growth. And today you can't market enough. Everybody's marketing everywhere you turn. If I talk about a product, my phone's going to market it to me on Facebook in 20 minutes, right? So you have to be product-led growth, but just because you're not failing today doesn't mean you won't fail tomorrow. And the reason people like Apple versus Samsung, the reason I like Apple versus Samsung, it's usability, right? And if you make something that's not easy to use, then and some people drive their decisions and their purchases and their what they do and how what products they use based on the usability. That's a critical thing to test. Last one here is execution. Let's talk about hurry up, right? You know, we've all been in that situation. Can we cut testing scope due to the budget? You know, your response may be, well, why didn't you cut your development time, right? Why did you take all the time you needed and now you ask me to cut it short? But if you seek to understand and you say, our goal is not to define the timing, our goal is to test with the understanding of the product, the time and the money that we have to test or come into play. But I'll test it until you tell me to stop, right? Your input to this product should be around confidence, not around numbers, not around pass fail percent, not around how much have I done. It's about your confidence in that product. If you're given 30 days to test this, your confidence may be really high. If you're given 3 hours to test this, your confidence may be really low. Speak about confidence, and that is how you cover the scope. Execution also has testing time and, you know, negotiation of the time for testing. Are we done yet? The whole, you know, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are you done? Are you done? Can you finish? You know, what's the least we can do to get this out the door? Can you test this today? Right? I'm going to jump here because some of my responses are, yeah, I can test it today, and tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, right? But be patient. Be patient and ask the team to be patient with you, because understand the need. Understand what is the reason for the push. And you hear this kind of common thread that I'm sharing with you along the way. Understand why they're coming to you. It may be just their own personal reason. It may not be the client or the stakeholders asking for this push. It may not be the project manager or the product owner asking for this. You need to understand what is the background behind it. And sometimes that'll help you a lot in saying, I don't even need to worry about this, right? Is this an emergency? Is it urgent? Focus on risk-based testing if it is. Focus on what you can test. And again, respond with your confidence and help the team understand as it builds. The next to last one in execution, and then we're through the questions, discussions you shouldn't have. Why did you raise this issue? Why did you do that, right? Your response may be, are you questioning my skills? Are you saying I don't know what I'm doing? But you know what? We must know the users. We must know the product closely. As I mentioned with the remote control example, we raise the issues because we know as testers, the best thing you can do is spend more and more time with the users, the people that are going to use the product, to understand what they're thinking, how they're thinking, what they're doing with the product that you're testing, and make sure that you're an advocate for them to understand, is it working and is it right? That's why you're testing it. You're not testing it because it's part of a requirements document. You're testing because you want it to work for that consumer and that person that's using it. And the last one, can we throw more testers at this, right? Can we throw more people at it? You know, your response may be, you think I'm not working hard enough, you know? But to understand this, remember, there's a theory that, you know, 9 women can have a baby in 1 month. Just adding more and more people to it doesn't always cut it down and cut the time down. But do understand the options, right? Look for ways to increase the coverage in a very short time. Again, think about risk-based testing. Think about how that you, you know, how you would want to plan what's more important, and maybe cut down some of the testing if they're asking to add more people and you can't add more people. But don't take it offensively. It's okay. It's really okay. Just get done what you can get done with the team. Now, with all those questions, I think we have to think about quality, and quality is a value to some person who matters. Jerry Weinberg, if you don't know who Jerry Weinberg is, please look this guy up. Jerry passed away several years ago, and he was an amazing person in the testing world. And he said, quality is value to some person who matters. And his theory there is that everybody can look at a picture differently and see a different story, right? So your opinion, I've done this with my teams, and I ask them, what does quality mean to you? If you try it with your teams and you ask them, what does quality mean to you? You're going to get different types of responses. So understand, what does quality mean to people in your organization? These are examples here on the screen, but what I'm trying to share with you is, when you understand what quality means to different people, you understand what's driving them to make some decisions that they do. If you take nothing from my presentation today, let this resonate with you. You must know how your stakeholders and your teams perceive and evaluate quality. The drive-through is not always faster. The words got mixed up with the new font. It's not just the name of a really cool book. It's a process that I use, right? I've sat in drive-throughs and watched people go in and come out and leave and thinking, I should just go in and get my food and come out, not sit here in this waiting in this line. If you're waiting in a drive-through, don't just do it for convenience. Don't take the easy way. Don't do these things because that's the way we've always done it. Sometimes there's a better, faster, more efficient way than just doing it the same old routine way. Don't tie yourself to a specific process or routine and just keep doing those. Be exploratory, be creative, ask questions and learn. And the last thing I'll tell you is this: you have the potential to change the world. And you don't have to be Sheryl Weinberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, any of those folks to make a difference. You can change the world right where you are today, doing exactly what you're doing. My question to you is, what are you doing to be great? And that, folks, is my quick rundown of discussions you shouldn't be having. And I'm so glad that you were here to hear my talk.
Thank you so much, Mike. You've taken us back and gone through all of the areas in testing where, we always have discussions, we always have debates. It was nice to know all of these areas, right? So quickly jumping onto the questions that we have, right? So there's a question in terms of how do you convince your management when the release dates are so fast, right? What do you tell them in terms of how much can we test? What is your suggestion on that aspect?
And is the question around convincing them that we don't need to release fast, or what we're going to do?
What are we going to do in the limited time that we will have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to, as a group, understand what is the priority things, right? What are the priority functions and deliverables for this release and for this product? Because you have to know that each and every time that you're working on a release or a sprint or an iteration, because there are going to be times where you're going to have to be, you're going to be told, probably more often than not, we don't have time for you to test it all, right? So you need to make sure you get those high impact, high risk things tested first. I use the example a lot of times of the ATM. If I'm testing an ATM, I'm going to test two features: deposit and withdrawal. Those are two critical features that if they don't work, basically the ATM's not useful to anybody, right? But testing check my balance, I mean, some people might be upset about that, but if check my balance, just come up and check my balance doesn't work, that's probably not a big deal. But if I can't get money out and I can't put money in, it's a pretty big deal. So you have to, in your projects, really understand what is the priority there, and then work with the team. I do think we do need to be involved in those go no go decisions. We have to come in and take confidence. And I hear a lot of people talk about, should I have the right to say this is going or not going? I don't think you need to even worry about being in that discussion of, does testing have the right to stop a release or not? I think what you do is you say, if I were you, I would not release this to production, right? I mean, if I'm getting ready to get on a plane and somebody walks up to me and said, I wouldn't get on that plane, I'd probably consider not getting on that plane, just because they give me a suggestion, and it would be weird that somebody would do that. But I think we should be able to say to people and start gaining that respect within the organization, that if I say, you guys can go, but I feel like it's probably not good for us to go tonight. Let's take another day. I think it would be better. My gut feeling is something's not going to work. That's a confidence factor. And I think as you build confidence in your organization, in you, and the respect from them, you'll be able to make those statements, and they'll say, okay, let's wait another day. It's not going to hurt us to wait one more day to make sure that we're really good, versus let's push it out tonight.
So there is another question from Dana. She says that uh, you mentioned about test cases are not that important, and we can go with mind maps. So her question is more in terms of aren't test cases used to help onboard some other tester who is coming onto the team, and it's
Yeah.
relatively easy for them to test. So what are your thoughts on this, and what do you think?
Uh, so Dana, I love that question, and you posed it perfectly because I do think scenarios are important, right? So in the scenario, I'll give you an example of the ATM. In the scenario I would have for an ATM is I need to withdraw money, I need to deposit money, I need to be able to, as a, you start getting into use cases or user stories. As a user of this ATM, I need to be able to do this and do this and withdraw. But what I don't document a lot of times is I press this button, I enter this information, and then I get my money out of the ATM. I know that that's what I'm supposed to do. I am given that direction by knowing that if I'm told go withdraw money, that means a certain set of things in my mind because I've learned how to do an ATM. With test cases, I'm thinking more about steps, because the problem is, and you've all dealt with it. Anybody's had to do it, and I'll be honest with you, I've done this for 28 years now, going on my 29th year, and only the last 5 years have I been allowed not to do test cases. Right? This is why I'm with this company. This is why I'm going to stay with this company, is because they see the value in modeling, and you do mind maps, and you use mind mapping because the mind map can allow you to talk with project managers, product owners, developers. Everybody looks at a mind map. To get a developer to look at your test cases and your test steps, they're not going to do that. To get a project manager to look at it, they're like, just get it done, turn it back into me. But if you use a mind map, you're all speaking the same language. So I think that's a big deal. And it's something that you can all, um, incorporate together as one. But I think the test steps, where I see the problem there is, if you do that, code changes a lot. So when that code changes, now your test steps have to change. So you're having to spend time updating those scripts when you really should be focusing on what do I need to test, how do I need to test, and actually doing the testing. To your question, and I love that question about training people. Well, number one, you should be mentoring them daily, right, and letting them watch how you do it. But the opposite side, and I say to people, and I do context-driven testing, and we focus on that a lot. It's not necessarily always context-driven. It's a variable of different stuff. But to me, I tell people, you're going to be happy that you don't have to write test steps, but you're probably not going to be happy that I'm going to require you to write a lot of observation notes about what you did, because that to me is more important, right? If I tell you I went and tested this application and I did these 10 things, the next person that comes along, they're probably going to be able to take that observation report, that summary, and do the same thing, right? And it's not really steps or anything. It's just what did Mike do the last time? And here's his detailed results. I love the after the fact of writing everything that I did. So to me, anybody thinking test cases are gone, it's going to save me a lot of time. Yes, but you're still going to be doing a lot of back end stuff to say I'm documenting what I'm doing and keeping note of what I'm doing. So that way, somebody, to your point, that comes along and wants to learn, they can read your notes and say, oh, that's what they did. This is what they found when they did it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. To extension to that, it's more like, are there any resources on how to learn about mind maps? Is what Dana is asking.
Yes. Yes. Look at XMind. To me, the one that I use is XMind. It's XMIND.net. If you go to that webpage, there is a free download. Now, there is a free and a paid. XMind hates me when I say this, I'm sure, because I don't see a reason to buy the paid. My team all uses the free version because there's a free version that does everything you need to do. Now, the paid's going to give you the beautiful bells and whistles and colorful pictures and attachments. It's beautiful. It's awesome, but it comes at a cost. Download the free version. It's xmind.net. And they have examples there as well. And connect with me. You see my a way to reach out to me. Connect with me. I'll be happy to share you some examples that I've got. Your world is going to change when you start using mind maps.
Definitely, I think it's much more easier and much more
Yeah, so
evolving
easy.
to use mind maps versus writing
Yes,
test cases. Uh,
yes.
So the another question you mentioned about titles, right? So titles are important. We have titles of QAs, we have testers, SDEDs, and all that, right? So we've already always seen a lot of discrepancy even in job descriptions, right? So what is your thought? What should organizations look for in testers, and what what should they look out when they're pitching out for job descriptions?
Um, it was funny. I posted a job, and the guy that got the job is actually in this presentation right now. So Srinivas, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Can't wait. But I posted a job, and again, I'll say it again, I got the best person for that job. He's perfect for this. But my job didn't say anything about writing test cases, executing testing, doing automation, doing this, doing that. It focused on, I need people that can model. I need people that can look at a design and look at a product and understand, how do we model what needs to be tested? I need people to be able to test without requirements documents. I need people that can be able to work with teams and influence teams to improve quality, but not be the owners of quality. I need people who don't really worry as much about metrics of pass fail percentages and how much have I tested so far in coverage, and more about how is my confidence in the product. So I think finding people, I will say this, not somebody's asking this question because they want to apply for another job. Other companies are probably going to say, hey, if you're certified, you've got a CTFL or ASTQB or ISTQB certified, or you've got the CTAL, or there's a new one that posted on Facebook and wanted me to join their certification. There's a new one out there. There's like an ISQA or something. I don't know who they are. I've had fun with them on Facebook. I will tell you this, I'm not one of those people that's so hardcore that I'm against certification either. If you're certified, bless you. I'm certified. I got certified in 2011. Thought it was the best thing ever. But then I realized that having a license doesn't make me a good driver, right? It just makes me understand how to drive. I mean, I understand the concept. But I think there's some good and bad there. But let me back up. Some companies are going to want you to be certified. Some companies are going to want you to follow certain, rules around the traditional, what we call traditional testing, around being able to write test cases, test scripts. But I'll tell you, if you connect with me, send me your resume. I'll be happy to take a look at it and tell you what I think you should add to get selected. I'll tell you what I would look for, and I can also tell you what other people are going to look for as well, in the traditional way. Because, what I found before I came to this company that I've been with 5 years now is, even though the companies that I was at didn't agree with the way I wanted to do testing, I still did it my way. I still did what they wanted. That was the core, but I did stuff my way on top of it, right? So I'll run the test cases. I'll write test scripts. I will write the steps, but then I'll do exploratory testing beyond that. So Josley talked about one of my talks, testing is not a 9-to-5 job. The question for each of you is, what are you doing when you're not at work? What are you doing when you're not in the office or not online at work doing your job? What are you doing after hours? Are you come to webinars like this? Are you going to conferences online or in person? Are you studying? I see people that do that a lot, and they learn a lot. Learn something new every day, every week. Just be continuously learning and educating yourself. Wasn't a great answer, but like I said, the quick answer is, if you'll send me your resume, I'll be happy to look at it and say, here's what I would change.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So there's one from Srinivas. He asked, like you also mentioned, right? Check it out in production and see it in live whether it is good, bad. So how do you rate a project in production, or when it goes live? When do we say it is good, or when do we say it is bad?
I just had a client tell me that their definition of quality is one critical defect per quarter. And I'm like, wow. And you believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all kinds of unicorns. But I do think that we do have to measure. To me, measuring whether it was good or bad, obviously we don't want things to slip into production. And I think that is the earlier we can find things. There's a lot of debate about the cost of it, finding it earlier. I don't think that matters. I don't even think the cost matters there in that situation. I think it's a matter of how many things can we keep our users from seeing, because confidence from a stakeholder is critical, right? I mean, we've all done it. I've got a phone over here that if I use this app and it fails me 3 times today, I'm going to delete that app off my phone, right? I mean, Facebook and Instagram, they get a little more pity. You know, you'll stick with it even though it stinks, but you'll tell everybody about it, you know, that it stinks. But I think product usability and whether or not it works and it does what it's supposed to do is critical. So I think that's success. Um, there's a book that I've been reading, and I know I'm going over, so I'll be quick. It's called "What Are You For?" It's FOR. If you look at it's a guy named Jeff Hendrickson, Jeff H. I don't know what his last, can't remember his last name, how he spells it. But that book talks about, you know, what do you want to be known for versus what do people think you're known for, right? And so when you look at products that go out, you know, it's like the best results of your product is what people say. One customer tells another customer about your product. It's not what you market. Marketing can do their job all day long. It's what is Mike going to tell, you know, Srinivas about this product, and is Srinivas going to take it because Mike told it? That's your advertising. That's your marketing. So sorry, it's another long answer. I'm excited talking about this stuff. It's been a while, but I think the best measure of whether it's good or bad is if your people are raving fans, you know, and they're really loving the product, and the people that use it are saying, this is really good. You've done the right thing this time. If they're losing confidence, you're in trouble. And that to me is a very bad indicator.
Thank you so much, Mike, for that. So we are on top of the hour. So let's have one final question, which
Yes.
will be from my side, actually. So we had talked about what discussions testers should not have. What is your final closing statement on discussions testers should start having? What?
You know, I think that the discussion testers should start having is how can we as a testing organization serve this organization better? What can we do every day? You know, and I got this from John Maxwell. It is my own idea, but John Maxwell says every day serve others, right? Make it your job, because Zig Ziglar, another motivational guy like John, said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want in life. And so the big question, and we too many times go to our offices and we just, or go to our job and we say, I'm here for me, right? I'm here to get a paycheck. I got to pay the bills. I got to do my job. But if you change your mentality to say, I'm here to serve, right? I'm working with this guy today. I want to help him. I want to help him to be successful. And you look for ways to help other people. You're going to change the way you work. You're going to change the way your organization works. And folks, Josley, you get to see this the first time before anybody else sees it. This is going to be one of my new themes in every talk that I do, because this is the first talk I've had after I got my training in Maxwell. But serving people is critical. And I think if we work together, I'm here to help you, not here to compete with you, and we're trying to accomplish the same goals, you'll see a change in your organization. So that's going to be my new theme for 2021 and beyond, is let's help each other. Let's figure out how we can change the world together.
Thank you so much.